We're about to start. Just follow what we're doing, okay?
Yep. Is this on? There we go. Good morning. I'm Dr. Jamie Sutherell, Associate Dean of Student Affairs at St. Louis University School of Medicine, and I would like to welcome you to the 57th Annual Pre-Commencement Ceremony. I'm delighted that we can formally celebrate our graduating seniors and their accomplishments in person. Ms. Erin Schmidt, Campus Minister for St. Louis University School of Medicine, will give the invocation. Please stand as Ms. Schmidt comes to the podium.
Thank you. We have a tendency to say thank you because it's expected or it's a social norm. But St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, encouraged us to be more intentional about gratitude. In fact, he places a thank you at the beginning of the examen prayer. This prayer is a short review of your day, prayed once or twice each day. But before scanning through the day's events, St. Ignatius instructs us to stop and thank God for anything particular that stands out, the large or the small. I may thank God for a moment with a friend, or a moment of growth, or a positive feeling. As graduates of St. Louis University, you will be called to go forth and set the world on fire. In full awareness that we are not alone on our journey, let us take a few seconds in silence to be filled with gratitude for the people and experiences that have brought us to this place today. May a spirit of thanksgiving guide us as we celebrate your achievements, and may gratitude help us move humbly and joyfully throughout every day. Amen.
Please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Christine Jacobs, Dean of the School of Medicine and Vice President for Medical Affairs at St. Louis University School of Medicine. Dr. Jacobs.
Students, faculty, family, and friends, welcome to this remarkable celebration in which we bestow the degree of Doctor of Medicine on these 168 graduates of the St. Louis University School of Medicine. Today, graduates, culminates your years of study of the art and science of medicine. Your MD degree will launch you into the next stage of a profession of service and lifelong learning. As physicians, your journey will be unique, but you all share a calling to care for each and every patient with the highest degree of compassion and integrity. You will be honored and humbled by the trust of your patients and your community. You will be challenged by the complexity of the science of medicine. You will experience the deep connection with those who place their trust in you, the joy of a patient's recovery, and the sorrow when your efforts fall short. Today marks the transition between your years of study and your years of practice. Soon you'll begin the adventure of a lifetime in the practice of medicine. As we celebrate this remarkable moment, I would like to introduce our commencement speaker, Dr. Alex Garza. Dr. Garza is the Chief Community Health Officer for SSM Health, where he is responsible for deepening SSM's health's focus on social determinants of health, equity, and social justice, as well as supporting the work of SSM Health transition to population health. Dr. Garza grew up in Missouri, and yes, he attended Thomas Aquinas High School. Dr. Garza received a bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, then worked as a paramedic and a flight medic before obtaining a medical degree from the University of Missouri, Columbia in 1996. He completed residency in emergency medicine at UMKC School of Medicine and Truman Medical Center and a master's degree in public health from St. Louis University. Dr. Garza is a colonel in the U.S. Army Reserves with more than 20 years of service. He served as Assistant Secretary and Chief Medical Officer to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in the Obama administration. He was the Health, Medical, and Biodefense Authority of the department and played a critical role in protecting the United States from threats of terrorism and natural disasters, including pandemics. Dr. Garza is a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, and currently serves as the command surgeon for the 352 Civil Affairs Command. He's received numerous awards for his service, including the Combat Action Badge and the Bronze Star. In 2013, Dr. Garza returned to St. Louis as Associate Dean for Public Health Practice in the SLU College for Public Health and Social Justice. In 2016, he became Chief Quality Officer for SSM and subsequently Chief Community Health Officer. He was Incident Commander for the St. Louis Metropolitan Task Force during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Garza has published numerous original research scientific papers in peer-reviewed journals and has lectured nationally and internationally. Please welcome Dr. Alex Garza.
Good morning. How's everybody? Okay, good. Well, Dean Jacobs, thank you for that kind introduction. Family, friends, faculty, but most of all, the graduating class of the School of Medicine of 2022, I am both humbled and honored to be your speaker here today. And what a memorable class you are, not only succeeding spectacularly in the classroom and in their clinical rounds, but also under that dark, ominous cloud called coronavirus infectious disease 2019, also called COVID-19, also called ruiner of my life. So whoever had COVID in their betting pool at the 30-second mark, you won. All right. So, by the way, that reminds me, just in case anybody asks you if there's a COVID 1 through 18, the answer is no. Just a little thing you should know if you're advising the leader of the free world. I'm just saying. Now, as I said, I'm extremely honored to give this commencement address, but being a speaker at an occasion such as this, it's a little anxiety-provoking. Even for someone who's been talking to news cameras for the better part of 2 years, I mean, I really haven't felt this nervous really since probably beginning residency. You know, all of a sudden you're the person responsible for the patient, you're making those decisions, you're taking those risks. Well, good luck with that. But don't worry about it, you're going to be fine. Right, Dean? They're going to be fine? Okay. But seriously, trying to find the right words to inspire, to motivate, to be worthy of remembering after you walk out of this room, beginning the next chapter of your life, it's a very, very challenging and a little humbling. So thank you, really, for allowing me to be that person. Well, after dealing with the anxiety, then I had to sit down and figure out what I was going to say. And then I thought some more. And then I got hungry. So I ate a snack, and then I felt sleepy from the snack, so I took a nap. And then all of a sudden it came to me, what we should be saying. And I was dashing off to my computer. I tripped over my snack bowl, but I made it to my computer, and I typed in these words, and I think you're all going to agree that these are the most brilliant words when writing a commencement address. Google, best commencement address ever. Enter. I was done. I went back to the couch, took another nap, everything was great. So who do you think pops up at best commencement addresses ever? Well, it's kind of what you had thought. It's kind of like the U.S. News and World Report beauty contest for hospitals, stuff like that. So it was people like, Steve Jobs at Stanford. It was Conan O'Brien at Dartmouth, J.K. Rowling at Harvard, mixed in with a little bit of Will Ferrell at USC. Incredibly funny. Just go watch it for the comedic event if you're entertaining. And Jim Carrey at the Maharishi University of Management. No kidding, he gave this address, and he killed it. It was awesome. So if you're really bored, go ahead and do that. By the way, looking for best commencement addresses ever on the internet, it's a little amusing. I mean, who really decides what the best commencement address is? I mean, it should all be just a matter of opinion, a little bit of hilarity. I mean, it's not like I was looking for, horse deworming medicine to cure respiratory disease. I mean, who would believe stuff like that? It's crazy. But it's out there. And so as I watched these amazing commencement addresses, I was in awe. So I was amazed at their delivery, at their command of their performance. But most of all, I stood there in wonderment and in a little bit of jealousy of their speech writing. Because I don't have a speechwriter. So what you see is what you get up here. But I think I've done a few things in my life that they haven't done. And I have a few stories to tell, and whether they help you or not, either right or wrong, at least they're going to entertain you for the next couple of hours. I have 2 hours, right? I made slides. Okay. No, that's all right. Okay, we'll skip the story about me and Obama in the Situation Room. So, but seriously, just think of these past 4 years that you guys have been here. And you're ready to be called doctor, which has a nice ring to it, but it's a little weird getting used to when somebody says doctor and you sort of ignore them the first time, and then they're like, no, you're the one. You have to put the order in. So just remember that when you walk out of here. And you've definitely benefited from that Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. So let's recap what's happened over the last 4 years. There's been a deadly pandemic, a once-in-a-century pandemic. There was an insurrection at the nation's capital, a second impeachment of a president, the very real possibility of a land war, and then sadly, we still continue to battle for the soul of our country because of inherent racism. Now, I don't need to tell you that going to medical school in the midst of a pandemic is a once-in-a-century thing, because it is. I mean, who could have predicted this pandemic? I mean, besides evolutionary biologists and infectious disease doctors. And Scott Z. Burns, the guy who wrote Contagion, he kind of nailed it, But who else could have known that, in fact, this particle, that many people are not sure is a form of life? Yet this microscopic particle really brought the entire world to a standstill. This tiny piece of nucleotides aligned just right without fancy computers, without superconductors, without jet engines, without nuclear enrichment, or a Twitter account, or a medical degree from SLU, brought such death and destruction, and it continues to today. And yet these past 2 years have been some of the most memorable and challenging and scary and depressing in the entire history of the world. And it's been a little bit disorienting, and sometimes I'm not sure what to think about it. I've done hundreds of press briefings over the years, and it's somewhat of a conflict for me. Because on one hand, it's extremely fulfilling as a physician and as somebody who's practiced public health to be present in this time. And how can it not be? I mean, you're working on a cause that matters, and not in some bizarre, abstract way, but in something that's real, something that's going to save lives. And we knew if we didn't act, and if we didn't act boldly, that we would lose lives. And in many ways, I believe this is truly healthcare's finest hour. And then I think of the tragedies, not just on the people that got COVID-19, but their families, the nurses, the doctors, the therapists, the janitorial staff, the food service, the chaplains, and you, the medical students, who came to work every day in the dark to care for the sick, to bring them food, to clean their rooms, hold their hands, anoint the dying, and talk with the bereaved. And it wasn't just limited to healthcare. Businesses were shuttered. Dreams were lost. There was isolation of our elderly. There was loss of social interaction with our children. No one was spared, and everyone suffered. Some worse than others. Our black and brown brothers and sisters more than most, through really no fault of their own, other than being born black and in the wrong zip code. But I'm also keenly aware that I would not be here speaking with you either. At least I don't think I would be. Being honored were it not for a terrible disease. So it's with a little bit of humility, and I admit a little bit of guilt, that I accepted this honor. So on behalf of myself, and I think I speak for the entire city, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you did over the last 2 years. I mean, truly you endured what nobody should have to endure. And we as a society owe you all a gratitude and owe you a debt which we cannot repay. Get used to the not repaying part. But even with all the bad things that happened, in addition to, cursing the previous years for everything that is taken from us, we should embrace the things that it gave us, though, and exploit them. Things like, your family's not so bad to be around. Patience really is a virtue that we can prevent unneeded suffering if we make individual sacrifices for the common good. That health and equity for everybody is important, and that there's really no limit to the love and compassion and the dignity. We just have to open our hearts. So I have a few things that I believe we should take away from this what is really a brief episode in the history of humankind. And first one is, you got to respect Mother Nature. You just do. So when I was at the Department of Homeland Security, we made these elaborate plans for deliberate bioterrorism attacks. But I would always tell them, Mother Nature is the very best bioweaponeer there is, bar none. Things like pandemics, droughts, massive wildfires, tornadoes that came through my neighborhood yesterday, once-in-a-century flooding that occurs like every 10 years, these things don't happen by chance. They happen for reasons. When the environmental balance is disrupted, there's global warming, deforestation, mass migration, all these things move us closer to the disasters we're experiencing right now. So respect Mother Nature and our Mother Earth before something really, really bad happens. Okay, lesson number 2, and this might apply to some of you. Be nice to nerds. Because they're going to ride to the rescue when you ignore number 1. And lastly, always strive for justice for the vulnerable. and never be afraid to speak the truth. Blacks and Hispanics suffered disproportionately during the pandemic, and this isn't shocking. They suffered disproportionately across all measures of health and the economy, poverty, and violence. The pandemic just brought a new light to it. That's all it did. These things have been plaguing us for decades. When inequity is allowed to exist, it impacts all of us, not just some. Well, enough about the pandemic. Now, I don't claim to have all the answers, and you should be really wary of anybody that says that they do. All I have are my experiences, what I learned from them, both successes, failures, some things you may want to keep, some things you may want to throw away, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you how to live your lives or how to practice medicine. That's really up to you. I can only give you what I believe to be true, but ultimately it's up to you to decide how you want to live. But here are a couple things that I've learned along my journey. So, as Dean Jacobs says, I was a paramedic before I went to medical school. So I was in my final year of school at UMKC, and I was worried. I was worried that after I entered medical school, my life would be over, right? You do medical school, you do residency, you go off into practice, and life is over. It's not. Don't worry about it. So I thought, I really want some time to do some things that I wouldn't be able to do if I went to medical school right away. So that was back in, I'm going to date myself here, but that was back in 1989. And the cool kids now call it the gap year. My mom called it the don't think you're moving home year. So my senior year in college, I was like, I got to do something. And so I concomitantly enrolled in paramedic school my senior year of college at the local communities college, which was interesting. So that was quite a commitment. But I went on to become a medic and a flight medic, and it was like this really, really amazing experience. And I couldn't believe people were actually paying me to do this job. It was that cool. Now, most people think, paramedics only deal with emergencies, right? And we kind of play that up on television shows and things like that. But it's just like working in the ER, and I'm assuming you all have done ER rotations, and the vast majority of it is not an emergency, right? It's bread and butter stuff. And it's the same way with EMS. Now, little did I know, though, that by caring for people out in the streets, I was actually learning about what's called social determinants of health, and you've probably all heard about those as well. Well, this was before it became like this cool buzz phrase. And in fact, the very definition from the CDC is social determinants of health are the conditions and places where people live, learn, work, and play that affect a wide range of health and quality of life risks and outcomes. Now, I remember taking care of kids. We'd be called on the emergency line to come see kids with rashes in the inner city. Yes, people will call 911 for a rash. But you see, it wasn't because, they didn't know that 911 wasn't for emergencies. It was really because that was the only way that they knew to access health care, or that was the only health care that they knew. It was really through those three numbers on the telephone. You see, this child, he lived in poverty, in squalid conditions, in a cramped apartment. They were using the stove for heat. They had no food in the refrigerator, a single working mom, high school education. These are all social determinants. We just hadn't defined them yet. And I remember profoundly being called to the scene of another innocent child. And then I had to pronounce her dead on the scene. From a gunshot wound, a stray bullet had found her while she slept on a couch in the front room of her home. And, thinking about that, you think about the family, you think about the community. And these are things that most medical professionals, most people, will never see or experience. Now, some people would complain, that we shouldn't be calling an ambulance for a rash, bringing them to the ER, but they're really missing the point. At most, healthcare contributes about 20% to the health of an individual. At most. Yet we spend about 97% of our healthcare dollar on this provision of medical care. The vast majority is the social determinants of health, and they're driven by structural issues such as policies and racism. So don't forget that. The Kansas City Star did an article on me and my partner while I was working as a paramedic for the Sunday paper. And in that article, I made the statement, and granted this was back 1989, I said, if more doctors saw what we'd see every day, medicine would be practiced differently. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I knew there was no way that the hospital was going to fix all these problems. And I continue to see that work every day when I was working in the ER and now during the pandemic. Now, one of the founders of quality and process improvement, Dr. Edward Deming, so Dean Jacobs mentioned I was Chief Quality Officer, said, every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. Now, we need to change that system if we want to reach health. And just as I signed up for that paramedic course a long time ago, I also decided to join the Army. I thought, well, this sounds interesting. Let's try this out. So I joined when I was a second-year resident in emergency medicine, and right away I moved out of a hospital unit and into a unit called Civil Affairs. So as Dean Jacobs mentioned, I'm the command surgeon for a Civil Affairs command right now. And we're sort of the nation-building arm of the Army. We, at least back then, we belonged to Special Operations Command. And so we called ourselves NGOs with guns. And we would go into countries and help the host nation rebuild or with whatever problems they had. And so it was around 2003, I was the public health chief for the 418th Civil Affairs Battalion in Belton, Missouri, just outside of Kansas City. I was married, had 2 young boys. My oldest was 16 months, my youngest was 4 months. My wife was in law school, and I was finishing up my master's degree here at SLU. That was back in the day when you can get on a plane pretty easily and jump back and forth. So I'd come into SLU on weekends and go to school. And I got the weirdest phone call I've ever gotten in my life. And 3 weeks later, I was sleeping in a bunk bed in World War II barracks at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, ready to go to war. And 6 weeks after that, I was sleeping in the back of a Humvee in the middle of a Kuwaiti desert, waiting to go over the berm, as we called it. So you had to cut a hole in the berm to get into Iraq. 125-degree heat in the summer, in the daytime, and then you zipped up your sleeping bag at night because you get beaten up by sandstorms that would come across. And then eventually I made my way up to Crete, Iraq, and went to sleep on probably the worst Army cot ever for like the next year. And that was my home. And so my good friend, Captain Ed Lupomic, he was the JAG officer for our unit, big guy, bulging biceps, was a bodybuilder, square jaw, looked like a superhero. He'd come up to me and he'd go, well, Doc, think of it this way. Couldn't be any worse, could it? We could be in Iraq. And then he'd look around and he would go, oh, we're in Iraq. Oh, wait, it can't get any worse. And then he'd let out this big laugh and we'd all chuckle and we'd go about our business. Embrace the suck, that's what we would say. So my mission was to rebuild healthcare for 3 provinces. And I said, great, where do I start? And they said, figure it out. And I said, whoa, all right. And you know, you're finally, you get a grip of this really challenging problem. It's like, I don't know this place. I don't speak the language. I don't know the culture. I don't know where to start. But I gathered my team up and we went over to the Saddam Hospital in Tikrit. And the lights were off because the hospital was right next to a hotel. And the hotel got bombed during the war because it used to house the secret police for Saddam Hussein. So there was emergency lights on, the generator was running, there was a janitor in the hallway, they were busy cleaning up all of the glass. So these 4 guys come in dressed in what we call battle rattle. It's, it's our vests, our SAPI plates, our cool Ray-Ban sunglasses, helmets, and of course, assault weapons. And he took a look at us, sized us up, top to down, and he said, come on. And so we went down this hallway, went to this office, and there sat 2 physicians, Iraqi physicians. It was right there that I met like 2 of the kindest people I've ever met in my life, Dr. Bashar al-Zemi and Dr. Saad al-Rawi. Dr. al-Zemi was an ophthalmologist, and Dr. Saad was a forensic pathologist. And they stood up. They were really surprised to see us. I'm sure guys coming in with weapons is kind of unsettling. And they said, Salam alaikum, which in the Arabic countries means peace be with you. It's a formal greeting. I liked them right away. They touched their hands to their hearts. They said, come here, sit down, let's have some tea. I had a little notebook that I used to carry around, ask them questions. They said, wait a minute. We don't ask questions until 15 minutes after we've had our tea. It's really important for you to talk about family and talk about life for the first 15 minutes before we get down to business. So I like this place. So eventually we got around to asking questions. I said, hey, what do you guys need? And they looked at me and they said, we need glass. And I was like, glass? What do you need glass for? And they looked at me and they said, your bombs, they blew out the windows. I was like, I did not fly the plane. I did not drop the ordnance. It wasn't me. So, I said, okay. They said, summer's coming. We need glass. We need electricity. It gets really hot here in the summer. People get sick. Iraqis are very unhealthy. They smoke a lot, and the diet is just way out the window. And at this moment, I realized these 4 years that I had spent in medical school, 3 years in residency, 2 years getting my master's degree in public health, were all reduced to glass and electricity. Another lesson in social determinants. So I thought for a minute, and I said, do you know where we can get some glass? And they said, yeah. I said, great, where is it? And they said, the Ministry of Education. And I said, why does the Ministry of Education have a bunch of glass? And they smiled at me and said, they thought they were going to bomb, you guys were going to bomb them too. I was like, what is this? We don't bomb schools and hospitals. So I said, okay, let me look into this. And they said, write a letter. And I said, what do you mean write a letter? And they said, nobody will do anything in this country unless you write a letter. And it was true. They wouldn't even take the pictures of Saddam after the country had fallen off their walls unless they had a letter. So I said, okay, and I left, and I went to the Ministry of Education the next day. And it didn't take much persuading for them to give me these panes of glass because I had a letter. So I went back and I wrote the fanciest letter I could on Army letterhead. I had my buddy Captain Ed. He was the JAG, so he had this embossing seal for notarizing documents. I had him emboss it, which had absolutely no meaning on this document. But the Minister of Education ran his fingers over it, and he was like, whoa, this must have come from like President Bush or like Don Rumsfeld or somebody. This is an important letter. So he gave us the glass, and I was like, cool. So we loaded up on the back of an Army truck. I got a bunch of soldiers to come over, help me unload all this stuff. We hired a window installer from the local economy. It's one of the things they teach you in civil affairs, build the local economy, hire the locals. And about a week later, the air conditioning, well, we went and got the electricity turned back on too. About a week later, we were standing in the ICU, and the lights were on, the windows were closed, the air conditioning was on. I took a picture of 2 Iraqi teenagers sitting on an ICU bed smiling. It was really cool. Now, over the next 12 months, I had a lot of meetings with the Iraqi doctors. And there's, we discussed a lot of different things, but there's always one meeting that I will always remember. And I was sitting there with Dr. Saad and Dr. Muhammad, who is the local health director for the province of Suladin. And we normally talked about things like, hey, what do we need to be building? What sort of clinic do we need to build? How do we get people paid? All of these other things. But today we just talked. And they told me like what their dreams were, how they felt this new sense of freedom. And then they sat there and talked, and I'll never forget this. They turned to me in my uniform. I'm sitting here holding my weapon, and, I'm in my battle rattle, and they said, you're one of us. And I thought to myself, I was like, what do you mean I'm one of you? I'm an American. I didn't say this, but I was thinking this. And they said, when we look at you, we don't see you as an American soldier. We see you as a physician. You're one of us. Honestly, I didn't know what to say at that moment, but I indeed was one of them. I used to carry around this little green notebook that I talked to you about in my pocket. I'd take notes throughout the day. I had to brief the general later on in the evening. I had one entry in that notebook for that day, and it was, today is a good day. So over the course of this year, these physicians and many others, they really became some of my best friends. I met their families, and they gave me gifts for Ramadan, and I gave them Christmas gifts, and Dr. Saad became my confidant, and he risked his life a couple times for me. Now, perhaps he did this because he knew enough about how to survive in a dictatorship. Like, you got to be friends with the people in power. But I don't think so. I think we were genuinely friends. I cried when I left him for the last time, knowing it would be the last time I would likely ever see him. And I was unsure what his future would be. It was like, abandoning your son or something. And we kept in touch for a while through his son. His son was an engineering student. But with spotty internet and even worse security, the ISIS overtook that part of the country. We lost contact a while ago. And I dream about him sometimes, a couple of weeks ago, actually. And I'm amazed at these kinds of people that live in our world. And we think we have a bad day when our car battery dies, or when we don't accomplish a key performance indicator, or somebody asks us to wear a mask on an airplane. These people came to work during a war, and they faced down terrorists that came to their hospitals. They told them, "You're insulting the population by doing this." And they did it without pay, without electricity. So here's what I learned from these experiences, and I hope these will help you as you go out into the world. I learned that being a physician is more than a job. It's a vow. It's a calling. Now, I've had undergraduate students come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about pursuing a career in medicine." And I tell them the same thing I tell everybody else that comes in and asks me. I said, if you're going into medicine to make money, go do something else. There's a lot easier ways to make money, let me tell you. Now, you may have heard of this. There's this phone application where you can post messages, but there's a trick to it. You only get 280 characters. Now, apparently, this invention is worth $44 billion. So you can either feed the world or you can post some silly messages. I'm just saying. But it's a lot easier to make money doing something else. So do it because you have a passion for it. You know, it's really a sacred thing to be able to heal the sick. God has given you this power to do absolute good in the world, and to whom much is given, much is expected. The ability to heal transcends everything. It transcends politics, usually. It transcends culture or language. So be a symbol of that good. I learned that sometimes you need to take a different path. My path is anything but typical, but has brought me so much fulfillment in return. So don't be afraid to take that path less traveled. Now, you'll be afraid. I was afraid. But embrace it. Make it yours. And you'll be amazed at how much you can do if you do embrace that fear. The body is strong, but the mind is weak. You got to convince the mind to be strong as well. I learned that when faced with what appears to be insurmountable problems so big like tackling a pandemic or rebuilding a war-torn country, problems so big they just leave you paralyzed at the magnitude of what you need to do. You just need to start. You just need to do one thing. You just need to fix a window. And it seems so simple, but it's really true. Just do something, and it'll come to you. It'll become more clear as time goes on, but just start. And I also learned that experiences matter, and you'll have a lot of them, and they're going to shape you. They're going to teach you. They will humble you, but they'll make life so very much worth living. So make sure they're experiences that matter. Experiences worth having that at the end of the day, you're content and you're usually exhausted. You probably all know what that feels like. Choose those experiences that make the world a better place. For I firmly believe that that's the only reason for our existence, is to make this world better for others, for our fellow brothers and sisters. Otherwise, why are we here? So work to make it fair for everybody, for those who haven't been given a fair shake, for those who are unfairly treated through no fault of their own. Remove bias so our society better reflects the truths that are self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. I've heard that somewhere before. Now, this, I believe, is a great American challenge to eliminate bias and racism in all forms. Now, you as physicians are trusted agents. People will listen to you, except for those guys that sell ivermectin. They won't listen to you. But believe in what you say. Be sure that you advocate for those that are vulnerable and work towards equity. Whether it's fighting injustice, working and healing the poor, raising your children to be good people, or simply just picking up trash, make the world a better place. Everything else is just an illusion of others want you to believe has value. But those illusions, they're not going to make you whole. They're not going to give you peace. They're not going to give you courage to do the right thing at the right place at the right time. My experiences made me who I am. Being a paramedic made me a better physician because I understood what my patients were going through. Even if I didn't live their lives, they let me live in theirs for just a short period of time. And I hope I made their lives better. My experience as an Army soldier made me a better person because I understood that most people, regardless of nationality, regardless of race, regardless of religion, really only want what we all want. And that's a chance to live in peace, a chance to raise a family, to practice of faith, to be given a chance to live. You know, Louis Pasteur, the great scientist, once wrote, "One does not ask of one who suffers, what is your country, what is your religion? One merely says, you suffer." And that is enough for me. Now, all of these experiences helped me during the pandemic to be an advocate for those who labored, day in and day out, to be a voice when there was a lot of noise out there. Because I had seen worse. I had lived in more hostile environments. The worst anybody really did to me was to call me names. But they just didn't understand where I had been, what I had done. Lastly, I learned how lucky I really am, and that things can always be worse. Yet even Big Ed, making his jokes about, we're in Iraq, it can't get any worse. We both knew it could get worse. Because at the end of our tour, he and I were going to go home. But Dr. Saad had to stay behind. He was my hero. You know, people used to buy us drinks and tell us we were heroes when we came back, but he was my hero. The doctors and nurses, the public health workers, those that worked at the hospital day in and day out, those are really my heroes. Those that labor for social justice, those are your heroes. And you, the graduating class of 2022, are incredibly lucky, too. I mean, look up around you. You've had families that have raised you right, that have protected you, that have paid astronomical amounts of money to receive the very best education. And you're also my future heroes. You've been through a lot over these past 4 years. You've strived and endured and undoubtedly suffered. And now you have one more thing. You have experience and you have understanding, and you'll be there when the next pandemic or their complex, hairy, insurmountable problem comes along. Finally, take care of yourselves. Be kind and respectful to everyone. Use compassion, thirst to understand, and look at your patients as a sum of who they are as a person and not as a disease. Don't think you're too important. You're not. Don't ignore your families. At the end of the day, they're the most important things you have in your life. Use what you've learned here at St. Louis University to make a world a better place and to live out that phrase, higher purpose, greater good. Enough of me. Go out and change the world. Go in peace. Malaikum salam.
Thank you, Dr. Garza, for that inspirational speech. You ready? I didn't hear anything. Are you ready? We shall now proceed with the vesting of tomorrow's graduates with their doctoral hoods. The color or colors with which the hood is constructed indicate two things. The satin lining is that of the college or university which granted the wearer's degree. For example, St. Louis University is known by the blue chevron on a field of white. The velvet edging signifies the field of study of the faculty granting the degree. Dark blue, the Doctor of Philosophy degree, and green represents a faculty of medicine. For the recipients of Doctor of Medicine, I will call each student by name alphabetically and announce the specialty they've selected and the location of their advanced training. You will find the honors and awards earned by each student and awarded last night listed in the program. Students wearing green and gold cords are those who are members of Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Medical Society. Doctors Hyrule Choksi and Marilyn Maxwell will place the hoods. Fitting that our deans of admissions have the honor to bestow the graduate hoods as you now graduate. Dr. Choksi and Dr. Maxwell, if you want to take your places, and Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Garza, if you want to take your place alongside the other podium to shake hands with the graduates as they move across. Dr. Martin, if you want to bring the first group forward. I will introduce first those students receiving dual MD and PhD degrees, followed by all students receiving M degrees who will be introduced alphabetically. Normally, right here, I would say, please hold your applause until everybody has been introduced, but you know what? It's been a chaotic couple years. If there's a couple hollers in between, we're not going to stop the ceremony. If we can have the first group of students come forward, please. Entire first row, please. Line up. Kevin A. Bockerstedt, Internal Medicine, St. Louis University School of Medicine. His PhD was with the Department of Molecular and Microbiology and Immunology here at SLU. His mentor was Dr. Rich DiPaolo. His thesis was the role of inflammation in gastric carcinogenesis. Stephen M. Grote, Pediatrics, Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis. He did his research with pharmacology and physiological science here at SLU. His mentor was Dr. Gina Yostin. His thesis was neuronstatin, a novel factor in glucose counterregulation. Daniel Pike, Pediatrics, Washington University, St. Louis Children's Hospital. His research was with biochemistry and molecular biology here at SLU. His mentor was Dr. David Ford. His thesis was neutrophil-derived bioactive lipids and sepsis. Nicholas Steinauer, Internal Medicine, Mayo Clinic School of Graduate Medical Education in Rochester, Minnesota. His research was with pharmacology and physiological science at SLU. His mentor was Dr. Jinsong Zhang. His thesis was role of the hepatopoietic co-repressor CBFA2T3 in acute myeloid leukemia. Andrea Aletto, Pediatrics, Emory University School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia. She was unable to attend today. Lauren H. Anderson, Internal Medicine, University of Alabama Medical Center in Birmingham. Harriet O. Appia, Pediatrics, Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. Rebecca E. Audette, Pediatrics, Case Western University Hospitals, Cleveland Medical Center in Cleveland, Ohio. Michael C. Berenson, Anesthesiology, University of Florida College of Medicine, Shands Hospital in Gainesville. Jonathan Bergman, Otolaryngology, Loyola University Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. Elizabeth M. Blaylock, Internal Medicine, Eisenhower Army Medical Center in Augusta, Georgia. Tyler Breckenkamp, Anesthesiology, University of Tennessee Graduate School of Medicine in Knoxville. Mary O. Bowie, Internal Medicine, Loyola University Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. Lucas Butke, Emergency Medicine, Medical College of Wisconsin-affiliated hospitals in Milwaukee. Brandon P. Call, Internal Medicine, University of Arizona College of Medicine in Tucson. Eric P. Carnevale, Internal Medicine, Case Western University Hospitals, Cleveland Medical Center in Cleveland, Ohio. Julia P. Siglensky, Family Medicine, Mountain Area Health Education Center in Asheville, North Carolina. Amy M. Chen, Internal Medicine, Huntington Memorial Hospital in Pasadena, California. Daphne Chang, Pediatrics, University of Washington Affiliated Hospitals in Seattle. Christian Surgeon, Neurology, Cooper Medical School of Rowan University, Cooper University Hospital in Camden, New Jersey. Joseph Colarelli, Internal Medicine, Emory University School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia. Courtney E. Cosby, Psychiatry, Cone Health, Greensboro, North Carolina. Jason L. Koken, Pediatrics, Medical College of Wisconsin Affiliated Hospitals in Milwaukee. Jacob A. Clark, Internal Medicine, Loyola University Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. Vidya S. Dandu, Internal Medicine, Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis. Joanna Dembeck, Family Medicine, St. Vincent's Medical Center in Jacksonville, Florida. Brittany Demir, Obstetrics and Gynecology, University of Missouri, Kansas City. Teresa E. Devine, Family Medicine, University of Tennessee Graduate School of Medicine in Knoxville, Tennessee. Bridget Devlin, Anesthesiology, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Yu Wing Vivian Dindang, Ophthalmology, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Jacob A. Dodd, Obstetrics and Gynecology, Spectrum Health, Michigan State University, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Zachary A. Dorr, Psychiatry, Lewis Gale Medical Center in Salem, Virginia. Colin C. Dolan, Pediatrics, Washington University, St. Louis Children's Hospital. Brian Douglas, Urology, University of Cincinnati College of Medicine in Cincinnati, Ohio. Joseph Elfrink, Emergency Medicine, Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. Elizabeth A. Erickson, Pediatrics, Washington University, St. Louis Children's Hospital. Kira N. Feldman, Pediatrics, University of California, San Francisco Medical Center. Holly N. Fleming, Radiology, University of Kentucky Medical Center in Lexington. Carla Formoso Pico, Obstetrics and Gynecology, Sparrow Hospital in Lansing, Michigan. Cynthia L. Gaines, Pediatrics, University of Minnesota Medical Center in Minneapolis. Alan G., internal medicine, Montefiore Medical Center, Einstein in the Bronx, New York. Kanav Gupta, internal medicine, UMass Chan Medical School in Worcester, Massachusetts. LaDan Hyrie, emergency medicine, The Ohio State University Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio. Paul Yu Han, emergency medicine, Johns Hopkins Hospital, Baltimore, Maryland. Alec R. Hansen, internal medicine, University of Utah Health, Salt Lake City. Jamie Hansen, general surgery, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Nader Hashway, psychiatry, University of Chicago Medical Center. Michael J. Hager, internal medicine, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Hunter J. Hicks, internal medicine, Loyola University Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. Bindi Hira, internal medicine, University of Miami Jackson Health System in Miami, Florida. Jacob T. Hockman, neurological surgery, St. Louis University School of Medicine. John J. Hauser, orthopedic surgery, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Justin Huey, family medicine, Kaiser Permanente Los Angeles Medical Center in Los Angeles, California. Nicole M. Jewett, pediatrics, The Ohio State University Medical Center, Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. Julie Jin, internal medicine, Washington University Barnes Jewish Hospital, St. Louis. Andre C. Joseph III, internal medicine, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Chunchal Colon, psychiatry, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Paul C. Khazrazadeh could not be with us today. He matched in family medicine at Kaiser Permanente San Diego Medical Center in San Diego, California. Adil Khan, internal medicine, University of Michigan Hospitals, Ann Arbor. Megan E. Killian, pediatrics, Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. Quinn M. Kistenfeger, obstetrics and gynecology, The Ohio State University Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio. Rishabh V. Kodia, anesthesiology, Montefiore Medical Center, Einstein, Bronx, New York. Sushant Koirala, internal medicine, Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois. Gopala Kanduri, internal medicine, University Hospitals, Columbia, Missouri. George P. Kung, anesthesiology, Loma Linda University, Loma Linda, California. Austin Lai, Interventional Radiology, Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts. Julia Larson, Internal Medicine, University of California, San Diego Medical Center. John S. Lee, Ophthalmology, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Dylan J. Leonard, Emergency Medicine, Mayo Clinic School of Graduate Medical Education in Rochester, Minnesota. Hannah T. Lee, Internal Medicine, Santa Clara Valley Medical Center in San Jose, California. Shuja Jessica Lee, Ophthalmology, Louisiana State University School of Medicine in New Orleans. Paraskevi M. Limberatos, Orthopedic Surgery, Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis. J. Joy Lin, Internal Medicine, University of California, San Diego Medical Center in San Diego, California. Franklin Liu. Savannah Lohr was unable to attend today. She matched Emergency Medicine Vidant Medical Center, East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. Kevin A. Liu, Family Medicine, Medical College of Wisconsin affiliated hospitals in Milwaukee. Sarah Magnuson, Pediatrics, University Hospitals in Columbia, Missouri. Molly E. McGrath, Family Medicine, Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis. Alejandra Majorga Hernandez, Pediatrics, Children's Hospital Los Angeles in Los Angeles, California. Cale B. Martin, Internal Medicine, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Charlotte A. Marks, Psychiatry, Oregon Health and Science University in Portland. Alexander McCammont, Family Medicine, University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics, Iowa City. Jeremy V. McDuffie, General Surgery, University at Buffalo School of Medicine in Buffalo, New York. Aiden M. McGowan, Internal Medicine and Pediatrics, University of Missouri, Kansas City. Brandon P. McMaster, Orthopedic Surgery, Mayo Clinic School of Graduate Medical Education in Rochester, Minnesota. Justin Meyer, Pathology, Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis. Ann M. Meyer, Plastic Surgery, University of Kansas School of Medicine in Kansas City. Henry H. Coe, Radiology, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Brianna C. Millison, Family Medicine, University of Michigan Hospitals in Ann Arbor. Hitaka Minami could not be with us today. He matched vascular surgery at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. Sydney Mergati, radiology, Loyola University Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. Nadia Michelle, internal medicine, Lewis Gale Medical Center in Salem, Virginia. Elena Muro Fuentes, neurology, University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics, Iowa City. Michael V. Musumeci, pediatrics, Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois. Rachel N. Newton, general surgery, University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha. Theodore Wynn, internal medicine, Creighton University, Omaha, Nebraska. Denir Ong, emergency medicine, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Samantha K. Ong, dermatology, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Monica Garying O, internal medicine, University of California Davis Medical Center in Sacramento. William W. Pan, anesthesiology, University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics, Iowa City. Christina Maria Papari, family medicine, University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics, Iowa City. Aman J. Patel, radiology, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Amisha V. Patel, pediatrics, Rush University Medical Center, Chicago, Illinois. Vimita Patel, psychiatry, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Naja Pejovich, internal medicine, Johnston Memorial Hospital, Abingdon, Virginia. Maureen A. Penn, family medicine, Northwestern McGaw University Medical Center in Geneva, Illinois. Rohan Prasad, internal medicine, Akron General Medical Center, Neomed in Akron, Ohio. Megan A. Kwan, radiology, University of California, Los Angeles Medical Center. Hassan A. Qureshi, general surgery, Loyola University Medical Center in Maywood, Illinois. Soumya Ramareddy, internal medicine, Boston University Medical Center in Boston, Massachusetts. Apshara Ravichandran, psychiatry, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Manasa Reddy, internal medicine, Case Western University Hospitals, Cleveland Medical Center in Cleveland, Illinois. Danielle R. Rink, pathology, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston, Massachusetts. Jacob L. Roberts, Urology, University of California, San Diego Medical Center. Neil M. Robinson, Psychiatry, University of North Carolina Hospitals in Chapel Hill. Delavar Safari, Psychiatry, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Mohammed Safaf, Emergency Medicine, Washington University, Barnes-Jewish Hospital, St. Louis. Madhav Sankyan, Neurological Surgery, University Hospitals, Jackson, Mississippi. Sangeetha Satish, General Surgery, Cleveland Clinic Foundation, Cleveland, Ohio. One in front of you. William Satterwhite was unable to be here today. Matched anesthesiology, University of Oklahoma College of Medicine in Oklahoma City. Edward J. Schmidt, Emergency Medicine, Washington University, Barnes-Jewish Hospital, St. Louis. Jordan T. Scoten was unable to attend. Anesthesiology, University of Alabama Medical Center in Birmingham. Gilad Seagal, Internal Medicine, University of Maryland Medical Center in Baltimore. Jonah Shah, Ophthalmology, University Hospitals, Columbia, Missouri. Mit Shah, Internal Medicine and Pediatrics, University of Texas Medical School in Houston. Singi Shi, Internal Medicine, University of Rochester Strong Memorial, Rochester, New York. Harjinder Paul Singh, Emergency Medicine, Beaumont Health, Farmington Hills, Michigan. Susan Sirocco, Emergency Medicine, University of California, Irvine Medical Center in Orange, California. Victoria L. Sansasi, Internal Medicine and Pediatrics, Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis. Daniel D. Spray, Pediatrics, Washington University, St. Louis Children's Hospital. Kendall J. Sputo was unable to attend. Pre-residency fellowship, Associated Eye Care in St. Paul, Minnesota. Melody Sue, Family Medicine, Carolinas Medical Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. Timothy J. Suick, Urology, Medical University of South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. Michael W. Suna, Internal Medicine, Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois. Krishna V. Suresh, Orthopedic Surgery, Johns Hopkins Hospital, Baltimore, Maryland. Jenna M. Sykes, Pediatrics, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Darian Taylor, General Surgery, University of Texas Medical School in Houston. Lisa Ann Marie Tenorio, Emergency Medicine, St. Joseph's Medical Center in Stockton, California. Raymond L. Torres, Anesthesiology, University of Kansas School of Medicine in Kansas City. Divya Valluri, Internal Medicine, Tufts Medical Center in Boston, Massachusetts. Grace A. Waldy, Pediatrics, Washington University, St. Louis Children's Hospital. Tajay M. Walden, Emergency Medicine, University of Chicago Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois. Yisrael Wallach. Maggie Wong, Family Medicine, University of California, Davis Medical Center in Sacramento. David Weinstein, Internal Medicine, University of Chicago Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois. Adam Walu, Internal Medicine, Boston University Medical Center in Boston, Massachusetts. Nicholas J. Williams, Family Medicine, University Hospitals, Columbia, Missouri. Olivia Wilson, Obstetrics and Gynecology, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Benjamin N. Woodward, Psychiatry, Kern Medical Center, Bakersfield, California. Kristen C. Woody, Emergency Medicine, University of Texas Medical School in Houston. Brent Wu, Internal Medicine, HCA Healthcare, Kansas City, Overland Park, Kansas. Nilsen Wu, Anesthesiology, University of California, Los Angeles Medical Center. Howe Emily Hsu, General Surgery, Baylor University Medical Center in Dallas, Texas. Nagasai S. Yalavarthi, Internal Medicine, Detroit Medical Center, Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. Pranav Y. Somasekar, Internal Medicine, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Kevin Yin, Internal Medicine, Mercy Hospital, St. Louis. Jason Yen, Interventional Radiology, Hospital of the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Tara Zahed, Psychiatry, St. Louis University School of Medicine. Mark S. Zamella, Vascular Surgery, Cooper Medical School of Rowan University, Cooper University Hospital, Camden, New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you the St. Louis University School of Medicine Class of 2022. At this time, I would like to invite Executive Council President Harriet Appia, Executive Council Vice President Nader Hashway, and Senior Class Co-Presidents Tajay Walden and Kristen Woody to the stage to give the class farewell response to the Class of 2022.
Hello, how are we all doing? We did it. Harry and I are so excited to be here. If you had told us 4 years ago that we would be giving our graduation speech, we wouldn't have believed you. It all started on one great orientation night at Wheelhouse downtown. Student government was not something that we had really thought about, but after hearing one of our classmates talk about it, I looked at Harriet and jokingly asked, "Shall we run for president?" I was not expecting a resounding yes from her.
And I wasn't expecting election plans the next day.
There were 3 reasons why choosing to lead this class was a very easy decision for us. One, as early as orientation, we could tell that our class came together very cohesively, and there was a level of camaraderie that we didn't really expect in medical school. 2, it was evident that our class would be low maintenance. Our job would be so easy, or so we thought. More to come on that later. 3, Harriet and I were already getting along so well, and we knew we could work together for the next few years. Our first year flew by with no real issues. We would sit in on meetings with the deans, and they would always whisper to us when other class presidents were listening, "Your class is better than and easier than all the rest." Wink, wink. And Harriet and I would nod, "We know, we know." Do you remember a time when the biggest scare we faced was the switch away from immediate scoring on in-house exams? Harriet and I were ready to go to war. Little did we know what was about to come less than a year later. The scoring kerfuffle was easily overcome thanks to great communication from you and the receptiveness of our deans. Working with the dean staff for the past 4 years has been a pleasure. We are so lucky to have a team that genuinely cares for our input and more often than not heeded it in their decision making. In short, Harriet and I were really set up for success from the very beginning, and it has been an honor advocating for this wonderful class these past 4 years.
All right. While reflecting on our preclinical years at SLU, I realized that we probably had the worst second year in the history of medical school. Well, at least that's what it felt like at the time. The year started without incident. We were coming back from our last summer vacation, and we were well rested and ready to study for step 1. 4 people went to class, and the rest of us tried our hardest to avoid coming to campus, and some of you really tested the definition of mandatory lecture. Dr. Ryan and Dr. Sitar showed us the importance of high-yield information, and space bars were being tested to their limits. We were younger and carefree, except for the most important test in medical school looming over our heads. Even as class presidents, we really had nothing to report to the deans. Everything was going well until the pandemic. Then chaos erupted. Suddenly, the test we spent 2 years preparing for was canceled, and the start of 3rd year was up in the air. Trying to study without a definitive test date was difficult and anxiety-inducing, while also dealing with the fear of an unknown surrounding COVID-19. I'm sure parents and significant others can attest to the sheer amount of stress we all felt during this time, and I'm sure your medical student reminded you more than once of how important step 1 is. As class presidents during this time, Nada and I really tried our hardest to gauge our class's morale, and we met with the deans to discuss potential solutions. We were impressed by how flexible and patient you all were during this time. You were patient through the uncertainty and fear. You checked in on your fellow classmates with FaceTimes and Zoom calls, and you even tried your hardest to help each other schedule these new testing dates and even carpool to out-of-state exams. I think I can speak for myself, Nada, and the dean staff when I say that we are so proud of how our class came together during this time. It speaks volumes about the type of physicians that we'll become, and we are both so honored and thankful to represent the class of 2022.
St. Louis University School of Medicine, class of 2022. Wow. Harriet and Nada just walked us down memory lane through the struggle of step 1 during the unprecedented era of the global pandemic. But we also remember the sacrifices and decisions that we all made that despite the uncertainty of the pandemic, despite the uncharted territory of treatment for COVID-19, and not knowing what the risk factors were or how we could even save lives, you took the call and you jumped into the clinical environment. You prepared yourself to walk into clinic and onto the hospital wards to do your part. Though looking back, it may seem small, but the part you played was huge. I remember the night before my first rotation, and I don't think I slept at all. It was internal medicine. I was up all night wondering what my team would be like, where I would sit, would I have a computer to chart on, and would my Epic account even work? Then I began to think about my patients and what they would need from me. How would I help them? Not just by silencing their annoying IV alarms or grabbing them water, but really, what would I say to encourage and reassure them? I remember my first day very vividly. I was working with an internal medicine attending, and his words of advice will always remain in my mind and at the forefront of my clinical practice. We had a patient who had end-stage kidney disease. Dialysis was no longer working for him, and he always seemed to miss his appointments. After the resident and I finished discussing the patient, the attending looked at us and said, "All right, team, let's go talk to him." So we walk in, and the attending sits down on the bed next to the patient. About 45 minutes later, we walked out of the room. The attending pulled me to the side and said, "Sometimes your patients just need you to listen. Sometimes you don't need to teach them or to explain things. They just need you to hear them. And you just have to be a good human. That'll get you further in your career than any amount of clinical knowledge." And so the challenge of third year seemed insurmountable, but you conquered it. You believed in the power of healing, in the power of humanity, so you took a leap of faith and journeyed into the clinical realm without an ounce of evidence that you'd be safe from this pandemic. Because the chance to become an incredible practitioner and learn under the pressures of the pandemic, interacting with patients and families, dealing with unimaginable circumstances, proved to be just the challenge you were up for. And now, here you stand, ready and willing to accept the new challenge of moving forward to intern year. And I know you're up for it. Congratulations, class of 2022. I'm so proud of you all. We made it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Listening to Nader, Harriet, and Kristen speak really brought up a few scary moments and memories. But luckily, I'm here to touch on the best part of med school, fourth year. And we can't talk about fourth year without talking about interview season. Receiving an interview invitation activated a fight or flight response in some of us. Interviews were often first come, first served, and programs sent out more invitations than interview spots. This meant as soon as you got an interview invitation, you had to drop everything, run, and schedule your interview. It didn't matter if you were in the middle of cooking, in the middle of the hospital, or in the middle of sleeping. Yes, there were programs that sent out invitations at 3 a.m. in the morning. You had to be available to schedule your interview. And then there was the actual interview. Do you remember the initial panic of interviewing on Zoom and what it would be like? We worried about, what should my background look like? Is my internet good enough? How do I convert time zones to central timing? And don't forget about the lighting. I know a few people whose interview setups look like a mini movie production. And the best part about Zoom was the attire. What started out as me in a full outfit, pantsuits, shoes, and 2 sprays of perfume swiftly turned into slippers, pajama bottoms, and business attire on top. And then there was match day. What a huge accomplishment for our entire class and an amazing celebration. I am beyond proud of everyone in this huge accomplishment. Guys, we made it.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriet, Nader, Taj, and Kristen. We'll now proceed with the recitation of the Hippocratic Oath. It's our tradition that the graduating seniors choose the physician whom they would like to lead them in this pronouncement. They have chosen to invite Dr. Jamie Sotherell.
As the first class to have me as your Dean of Students all 4 years of your time here at SLU, I'm humbled and honored to be selected to lead you in the recitation of the Hippocratic Oath to close your medical school career. Will the graduating seniors and any physicians watching the ceremony please stand wherever you are, including those of you in the stands. You'll find the words of the oath inside the front cover of the program. Ready? Now, being admitted to the profession of medicine and dedicating my life to service, upon my honor and before God, I freely make these promises. I will carry out that regimen which, according to my power and discernment, shall be for the benefit of my patients. I will keep them from harm and wrong. To none will I give a deadly drug, even if solicited, nor offer counsel to such an end. I will maintain the utmost respect for all human life. I will respect and show gratitude to my deserving teachers and, in as far as I reasonably can, shall teach the art and science of medicine by precept, lecture, and other modes of instruction to those who are worthy. My own life and my professional practice I will keep guiltless and right. Even under threat, I will not use my knowledge contrary to moral law. I will keep silence regarding that which, within or without my practice, I shall see or hear in the lives of others which should not be made public, holding such things unsuitable to be spoken. When skill or knowledge greater than mine will benefit my patient, I will seek assistance or advice, nor will I refuse my aid or my counsel to other physicians. I will not permit considerations of race, religion, nationality, party politics, social standing, or financial circumstances to interfere with my attending my patient. I will maintain the honor and noble traditions of the medical profession and forward its highest ideals. As long as I shall keep these promises inviolate, may I continue the practice of my profession and be respected for all time. Should I violate them, may the reverse be my lot. Please be seated for closing remarks from Dr. Jacobs.
Graduates, let us recognize those individuals who provided unconditional support through your journey and deserve our thanks for their unfailing guidance. Parents of the graduates, congratulations. It has been a remarkable journey to see your sons and daughters accomplish this prominent achievement. Graduates, many parents have watched you to grow and mature into the professionals that you are today. You've indeed made them proud. The sacrifices have been many, and today the reward is great. Would the parents of the graduates please stand and be recognized? Partners and children of graduates, you have been an integral part of the career development. Few know the sacrifices of a medical student until you live with them day and night. Thank you for your constant love and support. Partners and children of graduates, please stand and be recognized. And family members, brothers, sisters, and friends who have been there for all the graduates in so many different ways. Please stand that we may recognize you today. Faculty, you have devoted your careers to medical education, and the fruits of your labor are evident in this graduating class. Thank you for your contributions. Please stand and be recognized. Doctors, new physician graduates of St. Louis University School of Medicine, we've been honored to be your teachers and colleagues for the last 4 years. We hope that you will change the world with your curiosity to seek the answers to clinical questions each day, and the honesty to admit the limits of your knowledge to your patients and your colleagues. Above all, we hope that as physicians and healers, you will treat each of your patients, colleagues, and staff with respect and compassion. In this, may you find the joy of the practice of medicine that awaits you. Dr. Sotherell.
Would the School of Medicine chorus please come forward for the benediction? Thank you, School of Medicine Chorus. I would like to thank the Pre-Commencement Day Marshals, Dr. John Martin and Ms. Tara Osadnik and Ms. Regina Leaders, who coordinated today's ceremony. I ask you please to remain in your seats until the stage party, followed by faculty and graduates, have exited. God bless you and have a safe and remarkable journey. Thank you and good afternoon, but first, one last congratulations to the St. Louis University School of Medicine class of 2022.